Dogmen in Michigan that hunt people in the forests. Demons from Dover or from the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. Is it really hard for us to believe that Bigfoot doesn't roam this country? These topics and more, only on Cryptid Conversations.
Welcome, everybody, to another rousing episode of Cryptid Conversations. I'm your host, Brother Blue. With me today is Michelle, Thorsten, and Jasper. Now, today's topic, stone circles. What do they mean? Where do they come from? And why are they there? Now, here's the thing. Why did these things pop up in geographical, well, and especially certain geographical
Are you asking the
locations?
question that you want us to answer? Or are you asking it rhetorically? Because I need to know.
I'm asking rhetorically
Okay,
currently.
thank you.
Later on, I'll ask for for
I needed a clarification.
purposes. Later on, I'll ask for purposes, but right now I'm asking rhetorically. Um, when it comes to stone circles, uh, they're primarily found in Europe, and with that being said, there are a few that are outliers that are out in different areas. So, okay, who's going first here today? We got Michelle. Michelle, you're going to go first today. What have you found in your specific region that you're covering, which is France?
Well, it wouldn't be a proper Michelle Drinks Coffee
Hmm,
informational section unless I kind of took it back a little bit first.
okay.
So, if we're going to talk about stone circles, we have to define what exactly a stone circle is first, right? Okay. Okay. So, a stone circle is in the megalith family, defined as a large stone or stones used to build a prehistoric monument or structure. Monolith. Okay. So they can be a single stone or a combination of multiple stones in various shapes. And fun fact, there are more than 35,000 known megalithic features in Europe alone.
Oh, okay.
35,000. Okay. There we go. Okay. So single stone and multiple stone monoliths are separated into groups. So within the single stones, I'm just going to call this out here. There's the menhir, monolith, and a capstone. Those, maybe if Blue lets me, we'll go into a different show about those. So we're going to focus on the 5 categories of multiple stone monoliths.
Okay.
So alignments is the first category. It's placed in an alignment with each other with a clear intention, typically in rows or spirals. And if we wanted to give an example of that, we have the Karnak stones in Brittany, which is the region that I'm going to be looking at. We have megalithic walls, mostly seen in Mycenaean culture, typically shallow bedding, carved bedrock, walls with tightly fit together stones, with smaller stones fit in between them. Uh, Usually you will see those in Greek areas. The example of that is the archaeological site of Tiryns in Argolis in the Peloponnese in Greece.
Okay.
Then we have stone circles, often dated to late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, somewhere between 3,300 and 2,500 BCE. Examples, Stonehenge, Erlanic in Brittany near the Karnak site. And then we have dolmen.
Mhm.
Dolmen are stone tables made of a wide stone supported by other stones. And then a good example of that is the Polnabrone dolmen in County Clare in Ireland. And then we have a cyst. The cyst is a small stone, typically a coffin or ossuary that holds bodies of the dead. Similar to dolmens, but they're completely encased.
Okay.
A couple of examples of those are the Tifont Evias in England, and the Dunan Aula in Argyll, Scotland. And I hope, Torsten, that I did not butcher that one in Scottish. Okay. So now that we're 100% clear on the definitions, we can refine further into from megalith to the multiple stones megalith to stone circles.
Okay.
So far, any questions? Excellent. That means I'm doing my job. Okay. Take note that often in the regions where you see high concentrations of megaliths, especially stone circles, you will see they're going to be referred to as complexes of megaliths versus a lot of single, just one-offs. So when you do look at the map of where all of these monoliths and stone circles are, they're going to be in little pockets. So now get ready with me, because we're going to get on the Legends Cave private Gulfstream G550.
Okay.
And we are going to fly over to France. But we're going to make a little quick stop real quick in Lisbon, Portugal for a bifana, because I miss those. They're these little it's pork marinated in white wine, paprika, and garlic.
You're making me hungry. Come on, let's get over to the stone circles here.
It's on a little soft roll, and this piri piri sauce from Bird's Eye Chilies with lime juice. Street food, amazing.
Michelle,
all right,
we love you. Bring it in. Lock it down.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna get back on the private jet, back on the Gulfstream, and we're gonna fly the rest of the way because Blue said we have to.
Listen,
to the beautiful area of France now known as Brittany. Hey, it's on the Legends Caves private jet. So do what you do.
Listen,
I'm not done. I'm not done.
There's not enough sedative here. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, so we're back on the plane, and we've just landed at Brittany. This would not be a conversation with Michelle if I didn't have a little history lesson. Okay. Brittany is located in the northwest tip of France. Early humans and Neanderthals inhabited that area in the lower Paleolithic, roughly 35,000 years ago. They were mostly hunter-gatherers, eventually farmers. Okay, now we're going to get in a time machine, because, we have multiple different ways to get around. And we are going to
financing this.
Hey, the Legends Cave is legendary.
We must have a mysterious benefactor I don't know about.
Or maybe you're Batman.
Bigfoot.
I am not Batman.
Bigfoot's rich.
Listen, that motherfucker still owes me $10.
Anyway. Exactly. All right, so we are going to fast forward from the Neolithic Age, or the Stone Age is what it's called if you're a Flintstones fan. And let me tell you, these Neolithic Stone Age folks, they loved Megadeth. I mean megaliths. Anyway, this was the time when the Karnak stones came into existence in this rough time estimate there. Those were alignments, though, not stone circles. So just we're clear on what the Karnak stones are. These guys did not want to be bored, so they were also responsible for the largest single stone monolith erected by Neolithic people, called the Bakken Menhir of El Ergra in the Lac Marnier complex in northern France. Shit's big, is what we're saying here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Brittany had a host of settlements over the next few thousand years. First came the early humans, then the Neanderthal, then the Gauls, then the Celts, then the Iberians, and the Ligurians, and the Germanics, and the Aquitanes, and the French, and finally the Frankish under Charlemagne in 768. Okay. All right. So we're in Brittany. That's where we are.
Uh-huh.
So we said earlier that there were more than, what was the number? 35,000 known monoliths in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
There are more than 1,300 stone circles across Europe. Out of those 3,500 megaliths, 1,300 stone circles. But we're going to focus on the ones solely located in Brittany. And by the way, there are 49 stone circles just located in this little tiny section of France. 49. Okay. So we're not going to look at all of them because that would be a ridiculously long show. And I think Blue would probably murder me if I tried to go 6 hours.
I would never
In the
want to
show.
do, bodily harm to anybody.
Lies.
I'm a
Lies.
gentle giant.
Lies.
He's innocent.
All right, so we're going
It
to
sounds
look
like
at
these
more.
people were really bored and they really wanted to make a lot of stone circles
Yeah.
because, they didn't have Megadeth back
Rock
then.
on, Megadeth. Exactly. All right, so we're going to look at one specific complex of stones.
Okay.
We're going to hit the Karnak stones, also known as the La Manek alignments. Basically, these stones go from the waterfront town of Karnak through several small towns, and they're spread out over a 900 square mile area with little pockets of megaliths.
900 square miles. That's not exactly small when you think about it.
30 miles by 30 miles by 30 miles by 30 miles.
Yeah, that's not exactly small.
30 miles that way, 30 miles this way. I mean, it's not that big either.
But then again, I don't like traveling more than 30 miles, out of my house.
Yeah,
so.
you're going 30 miles that way, 30 miles this way. I mean, it's a 30
Unless I have
square.
Megadeth, in which case then I'll,
Yeah, then
I'll
you're
travel
fine.
more. But
okay, so
go ahead.
900 square miles, little pockets. And what's interesting about this little area of Brittany, France, that every example of a monolith is on display in the Karnak stone region. Every kind. Single stone, multi-stone, dolmen, everything.
They're
Literally
eclectic.
everything. Yes. They date between 5,000 and 3,500 BCE, before Common Era.
Okay.
And I do want to point out that the Karnak stones predate Stonehenge by about 100 years. There we go.
But yet,
all right, now that I've set the
still
stage.
technically the most famous.
Still technically, yes. Okay. All right.
Because it's so prominently displayed on that.
I'm going to prominently display.
Anyway.
I'm not done. Okay. All right. So now that I've set the stage, we're going to go a little bit east of Karnak to the Karlskan alignments. It is one of the smallest sites, composed of 13 lines with a total of exactly 555 stones standing in multiple lines and circles. Anyway, so surrounded by a wall of 39 single stone menhirs, closed at one end by a large stone burial mound with a 13-foot tall menhir on the top. The most interesting piece is at the very end of this really long complex in this area are the two stone circles that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So very interesting that the location, that it's a very long, almost like a pathway, where these alignments lead you directly to the stone circle at the end.
Yeah, it's almost like a pilgrimage type thing.
Yes. So what do we think it is? According to the information that I found, this has been debated. This specific site has been debated for ages. Is it religious? Is it ceremonial? Is it a burial complex of a Neolithic chieftain? Astronomical calendar? Don't know. But What I did find is 3 really interesting theories about the stone circles specifically. So the first is called the Stone Soldiers of Pope Cornelius. So Pope Cornelius was around in about 251 CE. It said that the former pope was attempting to flee the area and he was being trailed by pagan warriors. He was unable to locate his ship and he asked for assistance from the gods, God, whoever. And once he turned around, he saw that all of the pagan soldiers had been frozen in their place and had been turned into the menhir stones. Yeah. So that's the first one. Second one is Cornish hurlers. Do we know what a hurler is?
No.
Torsten knows. Hurling. It's a European sport with it's
Sport where you throw shit
yeah, you have to hurl rocks and you have to get them to land in
in a specific spot.
specific
Yeah.
spot. Yeah. But I believe it might even be curling. It's
Isn't it
close to
isn't it
curling.
Isn't it part of the fucking Highland Games too?
I believe curling is
No, curling is
where they got to throw the thing on the ice and it's
no,
got to
that's Canadian.
Yeah, that's curling.
whatever. Okay,
Scots are very good at the curling.
That's
curling,
Canadian.
hurling, whatever. It sounds similar to
Yeah.
me, so we're gonna go with that. All right, so Cornish hurlers.
It's like a shot put.
Okay, fine. So the other legend that's big in this area is that the stone circles and the monoliths are Cornish hurlers who were turned to stone for playing the sport of hurling on the Lord's Day. Similar to the Long Meg and her daughters monolith in Cumberland, England. Same story. And the favorite of all favorite legends, this is the one I'm going with. It's going to tie us back to our episode from last week with the Fae.
Well, from 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. It is said, a lot of locals, and this is the number one theory and legend from this area. Corrigans. Do we know what a Corrigan is?
Enlighten us.
No.
I did not know. I had to look it up because I wasn't sure.
Mm.
A Corrigan is a fae. And
Obviously.
it's okay, Corrigans are fae. There are tales of them living inside the stones and they come out at dusk to dance. They're in the realm of the dark fae.
Okay.
So
Are
to
they
any
like
mortal,
seductresses or something like that?
nope. To any mortal who disturbs their dancing, they propose a challenge. It's usually a challenge that is unwinnable by said mortal.
Okay.
And when the mortal is unsuccessful, the mortal is taken into the stone with the Corrigan and is imprisoned forever in a hellish underground lair with no hope of release.
Nice.
So
Slightly terrifying.
Okay,
kind of
so
terrifying.
don't bother these things when they're dancing.
Exactly.
That's the moral of the
So
story.
the long and short of it is what I found is these monoliths were built by the Paleolithic people. We're still not 100% sure why, but of interest is why are they so similar? Why are they spread out all over the place? And why did these Neolithic people who didn't know each other and didn't have like the US post office or email, how did they build the same kind of things all over the place? 35,000 locations across Europe with the same or similar items. It's a
One
curious
could
question.
argue they got
Mm.
stoned.
Copycats.
Copycats. But how do they know? Like,
Well,
unless
somebody
somebody like
talks.
traveled, but
Somebody was like, "Hey, there's a bunch of stones in a line over here." Oh, well,
Yeah.
that sounds cool. Let's put a whole bunch of stones in a line on our property.
And the work that it took to do that, like these things are not small. I mean, look at Stonehenge. Those things are not small.
No.
I mean, hell, even in that vein, look at the fucking pyramids.
Exactly. So
Those ain't
I
small
just
either.
found it very interesting. Like the whole concept of these, the stone circles and the monoliths and the megaliths and I lived in Italy for 5 years, and these stone circles were found on the island that I lived on, and they're called nuraghi. And they have like this whole fairy, like the fairy houses, and they're really kind of awesome, but they're the same kind of Paleolithic stone structures.
Naraji.
Yeah, nuraghi. I've
I had
got some
Naraji
books
once.
on
I
it.
took penicillin for a week, cleared it right up.
Anyway,
Anyway,
that's what I got.
dad joke of the day. Anyway, okay, so that's what you got. All right. So, with that being said, what is your opinion on
On the
either
why?
on the why, and also what is
Mhm.
your opinion on the tales that sparked about how these stones are there and why they're there?
So
Uh,
I've got the why.
okay.
Got the why. Here's my thoughts on the why. The why is because in those early Paleolithic times, there were lots of unknowns and lots of things that were happening that were outside of control, whether it's weather or the migration of animals or fish, or trying to figure out like how you appease the nature spirits to give you something that you need to survive. And because at that time you didn't have the existence of a church, um you did what your neighbors are doing. And if your neighbors did it, you're like, oh well, they built this thing and they got fish for a month. Okay, I'm going to do that too. I feel like it was kind of the, if it worked for this guy and they were able to sustain, well, maybe it's going to work for us. Or if you see it somewhere else, you're going to bring it with you to your next place. So these areas in Europe where we're talking about had heavy migrations.
Mm,
So that exactly, we're expanding up from the bottom of Europe into the tops of Europe. And if you look at the time frames with all of these monolithic items, they kind of follow the path. So as people are moving upwards to the northern part of Europe, they're expanding that knowledge of, this is how we do this. This is how you keep your family alive. This is how you solve your problems. You build this rock thing and everything is perfect.
okay.
And
Interesting take.
yeah. Yeah, and I like the Kerrigan idea. That's the story that kind of stuck with me the most. Is the people who live in those areas, they're highly tied to the history of their cultures, especially the early Celts and the ideas of the Fae and ideas of nature spirits. So yeah, the rest of these with like the turning into stone for people, yeah, that didn't resonate. But those fairy circles with the Corgans living inside them and dragging people to hell, like that was just a really interesting take. It's, how do you keep a kid from being good? Hey, don't go out and at night
Keep a
when
kid
the
from
fairies
being
are
good, or
dancing.
keep a kid being good.
Keep a kid being good. Like, don't go out at
Yeah.
night and don't bother the fairies, because if you do, they're going to drag you to hell and we'll never see you again.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I mean, just, you could say the same thing for like being near anything. You can make up the boogeyman will get you if you don't
Mhm.
be good, or Santa's not going to bring you a present if you're not good. Like
Exactly.
there's always something that's like you have to be good, or
Yeah.
this will happen. I mean, that's you find that in a lot of cultures.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just a matter of just keeping the kids in line. Otherwise, you know, you
It's
got to
crime and
fucking deal
cause
with
and effect.
them.
Everything is cause and effect. Like, I think the whole idea of these monoliths,
Mhm.
you have to give people credit for coming up with this way that it may have not worked, but they believe that it did. Just the belief in something bigger.
Well, I mean, the concept of belief, of believing in something that you can't see and something that you can't quantify.
Mhm.
I mean, the power of belief, you see it every day. People have beliefs, and you know what? Bless them for theirs, because my beliefs may not be the same as your beliefs, or might not be the same as Jasper's beliefs or Torsten's beliefs. You never know, But I think belief in something, as long as you have belief in something, then I can get on board and possibly be social with you.
I believe I'll have some coffee.
I believe I will as well.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thanks for listening. I had fun. That was a good one.
right on. All right, so let's see. Next up, we got Jasper. Jasper, what do you got from us coming from? Now, you had something from Egypt?
The world's oldest stone circle.
Okay, let's rock and roll.
Located in Africa, Nabta Playa stands some 700 miles south of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. It was built more than 7,000 years ago, making Nabta Playa the oldest circle in the world, and possibly Earth's oldest astronomical observatory. It was constructed by a cattle-worshipping cult of nomadic people to mark the summer solstice and the arrival of the monsoons.
Hey, listen, I think worshiping cattle is a good idea. They're good eating. Anyway, go ahead.
They're delicious, delicious cattle.
Yum yum yum. I love me a cheeseburger. Anyway, go ahead.
In the
Wasn't talking
1960s,
about you, buddy. You're okay.
in the 19 In the 1960s, Egypt was planning a major dam project along the Nile River that was going to flood important ancient archaeological sites. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization stepped in with funding to help relocate famous structures as well as scour the area for new sites before they were lost forever. But the prominent American archaeologist named Fred Wendorf saw another opportunity. He wanted to search for the ancient origins of the pharaonic Egypt away from the Nile. While everyone was looking at the temples, Wendorf decided he would look at the desert, says Melville. He opened up the era of pre-dynastic Egypt and the ancient kingdom. By luck, in 1973, a Bedouin or nomadic Arab guide named, I'm going to butcher this name. It's spelled Eide. I'm going to go with Eid. Marif came. Eid. All right, Eid Marif came across a group of what looked like large stone megaliths while crossing the Sahara. Marif took Wendorf, who he had worked with since the 1960s, out on the site, which sits some 60 miles away from the Nile. However, Romuald Schild, Wendorf's longtime friend and collaborator, remembers the discovery story differently. He says the entire team was driving across a stretch of desert in 1973 when they stopped for a bathroom break. It was then that they spotted evidence of the megalithic remains. At first, Wendorf thought they were natural formations, but he soon realized that the site was once a large lake bed that would have destroyed any such rocks. He would return many times over the course of decades. Then, during excavations in the early 1990s, Wendorf and a team of excavators, including Polish archaeologist Romuald Schild, uncovered
Hey, all right, Polish.
uncovered a circle of stones that seemed to be aligned with the stars in some mysterious way. After 7 years without being able to crack the mystery, Wendorf called in Melville, an expert on archaeoastronomy of the American Southwest. Melville says he too was puzzled when he first looked at the maps of the ancient site. He knew he had to travel there in person to get a sense of the place, as well as its creators and celestial significance. They drove across a flat, sandy landscape until they reached a large sand dune beside a dry lake bed, where views stretched out to the horizon. There they pitched their tents and set up camp, and while Melville sat in the sand beside the stones, he says he experienced an epiphany. I discovered that these stones were part of an alignment that radiated out of the major tumulus burial mound, Melville said. A pile of these megaliths formed the covering of a tomb, and it turned out that every one of the megaliths that we had found buried in the settlement formed a line, like spokes in a wheel radiating out. The team had already performed radiocarbon dating on the site by taking samples from fire hearths and tamarisk roofing material found inside the stone circle. It was like a Zen experience to see how this fits together, he says. Knowing the dates, I could calculate when these stones would have been in alignment with the brightest stars of the northern sky. He discovered that the stone circle was once aligned to Arcturus, Sirius, and Alpha Centauri. There were also stones that seemed to be corresponding to the constellation Orion. By tracing back to Arcturus's movements across the night sky, they proposed that the star would have matched up with the Naphtali's stone circle around 4800 BC. That makes it the world's oldest astronomical site that we've ever discovered, Melville says. Their analysis was published in the journal Nature in 1998, drawing global headlines about a Stonehenge in the Sahara. In the decades since, archaeologists have continued to unravel the mystery of the ancient people of Naphtali who used their summer home to observe the stars.
Mm.
Point of interest. Blue, you're muted, buddy.
My apologies. I muted so that way.
Point of interest. The majority of the Nabta stones are no longer in their current or no longer in their original location. Some were vandalized, so the Egyptian government took them and moved them to the Museum of Aswan to prevent additional vandalism.
Okay.
They're
Well,
bloody old.
I mean, think about it this way. A lot of the Egyptian sites and stuff
Yeah.
like that have been vandalized repeatedly over the years. I mean, even when they first opened up the pyramids and stuff like that, they vandalized the crap out of them.
Yeah.
A lot of artifacts have been lost to time because of it. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I mean, the fact that this stone circle, they theorized that it was an observatory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that right there to me says that, like, how can a lot of these stone circles not be similar observatories of the sky? You know,
Good point.
searching the stars for answers that we didn't yet have. I mean, Jasper, what's your opinion on
Honestly, I like the idea that they could be observatories.
it? Mm-hmm.
So I looked at this one, and what I found interesting is the when they brought in the planetary alignment guy, the astrological archaeologist, and they basically proved that the alignment of the stones in the original concept, the original placement of where they would have been able to easily track summer solstice, monsoon seasons, nomadic cattle herding seasons. So it would have just been a really, really good thing to have, especially that area of Noctiplaya that was known to be a oh, what's it called? It was a place where people
Floodplain.
gathered. It was a stopping point for the cattle herders and
Oh, like
groups.
almost like a
It
way
was a watering
station type
hole.
thing.
Yeah, it was a watering hole. So it made sense for that to be there because anyone who passed through could look at it, in the light of the sun and go, "Oh, I've got 2 more weeks to get my shit across the desert."
Possibly.
Yeah.
But we'll never really know. Like it's one of those
Hmm.
things that it's one of those concepts that's unfortunately lost the time. Um, with that being said, speaking of time, speaking of all this wonderful history stuff, Orson, what do you got for me, buddy?
I have got stone circles of the tiny little island that I live on,
Go for it.
and the neighbouring Green Isle of Ireland.
Okay.
Now, it's estimated that around 4,000 stone circle monuments were erected between 3,200 and 2000 BCE. Around 1,300 of them are recorded that still exist. And as Michel alluded to earlier, there are 49 in the area of Brittany in France. A breakdown of the rest of them, there are 81 in Wales, 6 in the Channel Islands,
Mhm.
316 in England, and 508 in Scotland.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I knew there were a few in on this little island. I didn't realize it was that frigging many
Yeah.
of them. Now, the original purpose isn't fully known, but archaeological investigation has shed some light on it. It's widely thought that they served as a ritual or ceremonial purpose, particularly in relation to the summer and lunar alignments. In the majority of cases, and some were also used as cemeteries, with burials being made in and around said circles. The most famous of these circles in the UK being Stonehenge, which, if you ever have the opportunity to, getting down there either during the summer solstice or the winter solstice is an absolute treat and phenomenon when you see it. It's one of those things you can't put into words to describe. You have to actually see it to
Agreed.
believe it.
I wasn't one of the lucky ones to get to go on the solstice, but yeah.
The Jewish society itself is absolutely unbelievable. But there is a megalithic specialist called Aubrey Bell who says that the loveliest of these stone circles in northwestern Europe is a place called Swinside, which is in the Lake District in England. And it does look bleak and beautiful. Now, these structures have been built through the early Neolithic by the agricultural and starting with the agricultural groups to the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, proceeding Paleolithic, Old Stone Age to the Middle Stone Age, all the way through to the late Neolithic age, around 3000 BCE, all the way up to the early Bronze Age. Now, the start of the Bronze Age in Britain itself was significantly was introduced when the introduction of bronze, an alloy which is made of copper and usually tin. But there are the line between the end of the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age, especially in Britain for the timeline, such a small period because they still weren't using a lot of bronze until much later on in that period.
Okay.
The historian Roland Hutton noted that along with chambered long burrows of the early Neolithic, stone circles are one of the most prominent forms of monument produced in prehistoric Britain. Despite the commonly used term stone circles, many of these monuments are not true circles, but are instead ellipses or ovals. The stone circles are not always found in isolation from other forms of monument and are often intersected with timber and earth structures. For this reason, archaeologist Richard Bradley cautioned against understanding stone circles, timber circles, and earthen hedges as distinct types of monuments on their own. Sorry, excuse me. Stone circles such as Stanton Drew down in Somerset, which is down on the southwest coast of the UK, are approached by a short alignment of paired stones. There is also a stone avenue that links different monuments in the landscape, such as West Kennett Avenue, which links the Aubrey Henge to the sanctuary. In some cases, the stone circles survive in such a damaged state that it's not possible to know what they actually originally looked like. That's just time and, unfortunately, human nature of taking things from one place to another. The archaeologist and stone circle specialist Aubrey Bell noted that the stone circle builders would have had to undertake careful planning before they erected these monuments. There was much that they had to take into consideration: the choice of location, the size of the ring, transport of heavy stones, the laying out of the circle or ellipse, and the preparation of stone holes. They may also have had to plot astronomical alignments, making the task much more difficult. Most of the stone circles were constructed upon flat ground, although some were instead built on a slope. At some sites, such as Kilterney in County Fermanagh, which is an island, the land was flattened especially for the purpose, although in other cases it's clear that the land had been flattened by earlier communities who had used the land for settlement or agriculture. A gentleman by the name of Aaron Watson has argued that various circles were located in particular positions to give the appearance of occupying the center of the world, representing a microcosm of the surrounding area. Any questions so far?
It's a lot.
I'll save my questions for later.
The number of stone circles is often misinterpreted as damaged burial mounds, curb cranes, and ring cranes. Sorry, cairns. Are often confused for stone circles. The archetypal stone circle of the mid to late Neolithic are far rarer than commonly assumed, appearing mostly in Cumbria, which is in the north of England, Cornwall, Wiltshire, which are down on the southwest coast, and western Scotland. They are connected connected morphologically with sites in Ireland, connecting the henge tradition in eastern England with the passage tomb tradition of Ireland. Aubrey Bell, counting tentative examples and burial mounds, noted that archaeologists assumed that for every stone circle that has survived into the late 20th century, there would have been 2 lost. So from the 1,300 surviving examples, Bell calculated there might have been originally around 4,000 across Britain, Ireland, and Brittany. Since the 1950s, archaeologists have been able to use radiocarbon dating of the material around the stones in order to accurately date their original construction. As of the year 2000, the earliest known radiocarbon dating of a stone circle was that of the Loch Maben stone in Dumfriesshire, which is in Scotland, which was dated to 225 plus or minus 85 BCE.
Okay, now you say radiocarbon dating, and it's recently, not recently, over the last couple of years, that it's come out that radiocarbon dating isn't as accurate as they believe.
Yeah, this is why they put the plus minus 85 years to give them 85 years older or 85 years younger. That's their sort of margin of error that they're using.
Okay.
Whilst the latest example, so the one closest to us, is Sandy Road in Perth, which is 1,200 to 150. 1,200 plus or minus 150 years BCE. From Dunburg in County Cork, 790 plus or minus 80 BCE, and from the Five Stone Ring in Cassakelty in County Kerry, which 715 plus or minus 50 in the years. Bell said that the collaboration of these dates indicate that the stone circle tradition existed between 3,300 and 900 BCE, which that's a hell of a long time ago and a hell of a long time for them to still be doing it. The size of the sorry, was there a question?
No, I mean, I agree that that's a hell of a jump. You know,
you're talking the best part of 2,500 years.
Yeah.
The size of megalithic rings varied, perhaps according to the number of people who would be using it during ceremonies. Bell calculated that the largest stone circle in terms of both diameter and area was a place called Stanton Drew in Somerset, which has a diameter of 112.2 meters, which is 368 feet, and an area of 9,887 square meters, or 2.44 acres.
That's wild.
The second largest is called the Ring of Brodgar, which is on the island of Orkney, at 103.6 meters in diameter and takes up a total space of just over 2 acres. Now, Orkney is not a big island, and for 2 acres of it to be taken up by a stone circle is a lot.
Yeah, that's a little bit ridiculous in my opinion.
But from his calculations and taking averages into account, 92% of these stone circles would have an average diameter of just over 45 feet, with an average area covering 150 square meters or 1,615 feet square. So generally much smaller.
Yeah, generally. I mean, but it's still decent size, you know.
Yeah. The archaeologist Alexander Thom proposed that the stone circles were built using a unit of measurement which he called the megalithic yard, which is about 2.7 feet or 83 centimeters. He came to this conclusion following that more than 40 years of surveying the monument, aided by his son Archibald. Parker, a gentleman by Parker Pearson, stated that the idea of a standard unit of measurement was very plausible, but perhaps not as regular as some and others have argued. In 1980, the archaeologist and stone circle expert Bell noted that the idea of Thom's megalithic yard remained contentious. Thom also argued that the builders of these circles were accomplished astronomers and deliberately included astronomical alignments in the rings. According to Parker Pearson, however, many of these circles do not appear to be based on any astrological alignment. Pearson continued that late Neolithic, Bronze Age conceptions of cosmology were likely very different from modern understandings of astronomy. However, it has been found that the earliest standing stone monuments in the British Isles, the great circles such as Callanish on the Isle of Lewis and Stennis on the Isle of Orkney, were specifically constructed to align with the sun and the moon, and the movements of the sun and moon across the local landscape. Any questions?
Marveling at this, you know,
Yeah.
the sizes and distances and everything like that. It's got my brain going like crazy.
Yeah, so I had plans of getting up to Orkney, but I got as far as Inverness and then lost track of ability to do anything else. Um yeah, so I just like pulled it up on a map to look at the ring of Brogdar.
Mm.
That is cool as hell, especially the placement of it. I don't know if you can pull it up on your side, but definitely go to Google Maps and go to Orkney and look at the ring of Brodgar and just see where it is. Like,
I've seen it in person. It
yeah,
is.
it's just,
It's ridiculous.
it's insane.
Yeah.
Just placement wise, it's just like how did this happen? But yeah, that's a lot of information, Torsten. Thank you for putting all that together because that was
Oh,
I'm just
I
sitting
have
here
so
like just
I have
taking it
so
all
much.
in. Yeah.
I do have so much more, but I am wary of obviously people's time. But I am. I think I may do a standalone video of a much more deep dive into this.
Yeah, that, dude, you might have to do an entire video just on that. Okay, here's the thing. Orson, what is your opinion on these things and what they do? You know, what they're
I think that there are, depending on which site you're at, depends on what it was used for. Like for me, Stonehenge is a astrological site. There's you just with especially with how when you go there on either of the solstices, it's just too perfect of how the sunrise and the sunset on that site is. Is the people that built that knew something that everybody else didn't. I also believe it was also a dual purpose of being a ceremonial site for the Druids and the Pictish people down on our southwest coast. But I think it for me, it definitely depends on which site is. It would depend on what it was actually used for. I don't think it's a one thing fits all with them.
Yeah.
Especially with the period of time that it's spread over and the different regions and different beliefs and social construction of there just had to be different uses.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that makes you scratch your head and you just sit there and
Yeah.
what's going on. Well, with that being said, when it comes down to what these stone circles are, I don't think we'll ever fully understand what full on meant for. But I do like the idea that it was, an astrological chart of some sort to aid people in terms of knowing, how long they had for crops and uh, moving cattle and I like that idea. But like I said, we will never fully understand what the actual meaning of these crops are. Sorry, thinking about another episode later down the line, crop circles. Uh, these stone circles will actually be. Um, with that being said, anybody else got anything else to add?
There's a
No,
lot.
It's a lot of information. It's a lot of information coming at you hard.
Yeah.
Definitely broke my brain in terms of like.
In terms of taking it all in, like I think we took a big bite of this one.
Yeah, we may have to
Um
revisit this topic again.
because even honing in on stone circles, there's still so much
Yeah,
out
there's
there, like
a lot of it.
Yeah, I knew of a lot of these stone circles dotted around the UK, but just the sheer amount is just
yeah, yeah,
mind-boggling.
yeah.
I mean, it's definitely something worth considering for a secondary episode. But I'll just say this: this has been an ultra informative episode to me.
We need a
But
private jet.
we need a mysterious benefactor with a lot of money. That's what we need.
Team private jet.
Team, I
Cryptid
don't
cave.
fly.
Oh, we can call the cockpit the cryptid cave.
I am not getting a real ID. Making me hopeful.
Come
I don't
on.
want to fly. I'd rather
I'm
drive.
I'm flying on Thursday morning.
Listen, the creators gave me feet for a reason, not wings.
Whatever.
Anyway, with that being said, folks, we're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you so much for joining us here on Cryptid Conversations. I've been your host, Brother Blue, and our wonderful, wonderful panel here, Shell, Jasper, and Forster. Catch us in next week's episode, which will hopefully be live, I believe. Right?
Yes.
We're going live next week? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which will be live, and we will give you that topic during the week. So keep your eyes open for the schedule.
Or closed.
Live. Well, but also
Your
keep your
choice.
eyes open to
Let's not tell people what to
possibilities
do.
of so many things.
I'm not the boss of them.
Sheesh.
No, but we are going to tell them to like, share, subscribe.
Yes, all of
Thank
those
you,
things.
Torsten. Yes, like, share, and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out our merch stores. Uh, links links are in the bio. Links are also going to be added to videos once they hit the playlists. So thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much. And can't be good, be bad. If you're going to be bad, at least be good at it. Keep those eyes open for Bigfoot. Anyway, see you next time.